Welcome everyone to another episode of Fear-Free Passive Investing. My name is Lucas Miller and I'm host of the podcast Fear-Free Passive Investing, host of the YouTube channel Fear-Free Passive Investing. So if you haven't found both of those, I'd love if you did and subscribed. That would be great for me. That helps a lot. We help passive investors navigate the sometimes confusing world of passive investing into commercial real estate, syndications, specifically multifamily is mostly what we focus on this show. That just because that's what I do and that's the most experience I have in this. But today's guest is great. Truly a good friend and just a fantastic story. And he's doing so much right now. And I'm really excited to get into the show today. But first, I want to quickly remind everybody that of course, we don't ask anything of you on this show. All I ask is that you take in the education and the knowledge and return the favor by hopefully passing on the show, but also just potentially sharing this with a friend. That's a huge boon to the show. That helps it grow a lot. And I know a lot of you do that now, but we would really appreciate the more shares, the more likes on videos, the more, subscribers obviously helps a lot. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure to go to fearfreepassive.com and either check out the podcast if you're watching the video or check out the videos if you're listening to the podcast. So, but let's jump into today's show where we have Eric Upchurch on the show. Now, if you don't know about Eric, he's a Army Special Operations vet. And he grew up in Iowa and he went to school in California and did all that. But his passion lately has been educating the military community on real estate investing, how to create long-term wealth through real estate. And he's doing some great stuff there. He has a great show called Active Duty Passive Income. And he is working at ADPI Capital, Active Duty Passive Income Capital. Most recently, Eric's team opened a nationwide, first of its kind, 100% employee-owned mortgage branch too, which is a little bit interesting. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And so he's all about serving the military community, but also other people too. What's really cool is he is actually building houses for veterans. And I just saw on Facebook actually that he actually accomplished that. So he's going to talk a little bit about that too. But if you want to get in touch with Eric and read either his best-selling book that's on Amazon, Military House Hacking, or if you're just a member of the military and you want to reach out to him and ask questions, I'm sure he'd love that. Make sure to head over to fearfreepassive.com. And I'm going to have links to everything in the show notes there. And so you can actually get in touch with him and read all about active duty passive income. But with that, I want to jump right into the show and welcome Eric. All right, Eric, thanks so much. Welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here. I'm really excited to get in and talk with you a little bit.
Glad to be here. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So I know a lot about you, but listeners might not. So if you could give us like maybe a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, and give us your background and kind of how you came to where you're at right now, because you got a really interesting story that I want people to hear about.
You give me 3 minutes and it might be 10. So I'll try and do it. I'll try and do it faster than that. So, so I grew up in central Iowa, moved out to California for initially culinary school, which I finished, ended up going to junior college, then senior college, UC Santa Barbara, enlisted in the Army after college. And I could have been an officer, but circumstances would have it that the loan repayment program would pay off all of my college debt if I chose to be enlisted instead. I also had the understanding just personally that I wanted to mentor. I've always been a manager of people since I was 12 years old working in the cornfields in Iowa. I was always a team leader of some kind. So I figured, well, being enlisted, I would be able to influence some younger guys, and I'm going in at 24 years old. So, and that ended up being the case. Ended up in special operations my entire career in the military, and bought a single family property while actually I was in Iraq, deployed, probably my second or third deployment. And my wife signed the paperwork and we bought a new construction home with a VA loan, zero out of pocket, which was amazing. This is 2006. Great time to buy a fully 100% leveraged home in 2006, right? But I'm getting paid by Uncle Sam. Great stability. The last recession did not affect me at all, other than the fact that I was looking and learning and listening and just watching what was going on. So, fast forward a few years, I still had that single family property that turned out to be a decent rental, owned it for about 10 years, moved when I got out of the military, moved back to the San Francisco Bay Area where my wife is from. And, we, at that point, I stumbled across a couple books, obviously the Purple Bible, Rich Dad. And that kind of just made me think, maybe there's something like, seems like people are making a lot of money in real estate investing. So what does that mean? What does that mean to me specifically, based on the area, the market that I live in? How could I do this? And, ended up living, flipping around the Bay Area for like 5 years. We did 3 live-in flips around the Bay Area with my kids, my wife. Had to have a very special type of spouse to allow you to do something like that. But
Yeah.
That was a great capital building phase for us. And then we took some of that money and invested in our first limited partnership with somebody that we knew.
Awesome. What year were you flipping in the Bay Area?
Yeah, so little different than I have to specify. It was not flipping; it was live-in flipping. So a little same. So the first live-in flip was in 2012. We purchased. Great time to be buying in the Bay Area because things were just going crazy. Yeah. So we bought a place that needed no work at all. It was all market appreciation. Over 2 years, it went from $500,000 to $690,000. We sold that, and I used my VA loan on that also. I put no money down. I could just afford that payment with my W-2 salary. So we're like, all right, cool. So now it's $690,000. So we said, well, maybe we'll move on to somewhere else. And we didn't really know what we were doing at that point yet, but we're like, well, that's a lot of money. Like that's 3 years of salary in the military, so maybe we can take that and go do it again. So then we bought a house near the beach, about 2 blocks from the beach. It was $900,000, and we knew it needed some work. And so we're like, well, we can live in this and just see what happens. The market's still going up. But the whole time, the difference with live-in flipping is that you can afford the payment and it's your house. So you don't feel like you're not going to get caught in this weird position of, oh man, we can't sell this property, or you don't have to sell it. The goal each time was to live in it and live in it indefinitely. You don't have to sell at any given time. So that one we bought for $900,000 and ended up selling 9 months later for $1.158 million. So $250,000 in 9 months is what that appreciated. We had about $50,000 into renovations from that one, but a very, very clean 9 months, and then did that one more time in the East Bay. So, so live-in flipping, and my kids were there, and now my kids are super flexible, almost like a military family. I was in the military. We didn't move around at all because I was in the type of unit I was in, but after the military, we've moved 9 times in the last 8 years, and it was all strategic because it was the next investment, So
that's really cool. That's almost like a version of house hacking. And I know you're into that too. And it's a different kind of house hacking. You don't hear a lot about that.
In our book, so we have a #1 bestseller on Amazon called Military House Hacking. That's free also on our website. But that's my version of a military house hack, using the VA loan, either market appreciation or forced appreciation or a combination of both, and just live in flipping. And that was my capital building phase. Yep.
Yeah. Well, and that's great. So if you're young listening to this right now, you definitely should be doing some sort of house hacking. Like it's super valuable. That's how I got started. But we're here to talk about your passive and now active investments into commercial properties too. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that first LP deal that you did was that, I think you said 2015 or
2017, I believe.
2017. Yeah. Okay. So tell us about that. How'd you find it? What did you like about it?
Yeah. So from 2012 to 2017, we were living, flipping, and just figuring it out and building capital. And then, and then in 2017, I started realizing that my buddy, same birthday as me, actually same day, same year, he was also same degree as me in college. So we had several classes together, and he was on my wife's gymnastics team. So a guy that I knew well enough, and we had enough in common. And I saw him like flying around on jets and stuff. And I'm like, what did I miss? So, I reached out to him, and he was just like, yeah, come, just next time you're in SoCal, just come down to my office. And I'll walk you through what I do and everything. And so he goes, so Eric, if you would have invested in this last deal that we owned for 5 years, I think it was in Phoenix or something. He goes, if you would have invested $100,000, I would have paid you back 290, including return of capital, $290,000 over a 5-year period. And that's a home run deal. I mean, you and I would look at that and go, okay, that's a home run deal, but the point of it was, my eyes at that point were like, I was like, wait a minute, is this the thing that people are doing in America that isn't taught to regular folks?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I mean, and I found out that yes, it is. Normal people can buy multifamily properties and invest in them too. So then I did end up investing in my first deal with him, because it was super comfortable with him. He knew me well. So there was no issues with that part of it. I told him all about my financial situation and what I could afford. And so I invested as a limited partner in a 439 unit mobile home community, actually a
nice.
three-part portfolio that I'm still in today.
Nice. That's great. I mean, that's a really good entry into this. And I guess I should go back and just preface my earlier statement about house hacking with, that's assuming you have no money, and you're still building that capital phase.
Right.
If you're a mid-career professional earning a ton of money, don't waste your time house hacking. That's not the best use of your time. But
the way I look at it is, you can do that in parallel. Those are not like if you're living in something, go ahead and do that. It's not going to, you take that earned income and you can invest, but in the meantime, you can house hack if that's what you wanted to do and you have a flexible wife and, scenario.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is, though, like, you kind of looked at those returns and you're over there swinging a hammer, and it's like, I'm working really hard for that type of return, whereas I could do that passively with his deal. And that's the parallel I was trying to draw there. But yeah, I agree. You could definitely do those in parallel. So take us from there. What'd you do after that?
Yeah. So after that, I connected with our current company. They're two of the other co-founders, Active Duty Passive Income. We connected and started this business around, teaching military that they can invest in real estate while they're in. There wasn't anything out there like it. And now we're the, premier military real estate investing education platform and community in the US, and have a ton of things going on there. But as far as investing goes, one of my partners at ADPI, he said, "Hey, I've got this ticket to this boot camp down in LA. I can't go to it. So do you want to go?" And I was like, "Sure." I'd never heard of the guy before. So I ended up going down there. And that's when I realized the GP side of investing. I had that one investment, which was literally just writing a check, and receiving a quarterly payment from my buddy. That's basically how it looked to me. Right. And then I go down to this boot camp, this 3-day boot camp in LA, and I go, "So you're telling me that like a regular kid from Iowa who is in the military can now go and buy multifamily properties?" And so, started, I was basically just kicking tires for 3 months after that. Cause you leave any kind of, we've all been to boot camps before, and we're like, yeah. And I did a single family boot camp where I paid a ton of money for coaching and stuff like that too. I skipped over that earlier, but that was part of my learning phase. But you leave those things and you're like, yeah, I can do this. And they gave me a 90-day action plan, and I'll do it on my own, cause I've got all the information. And guess what? Everything's free on the internet. You can Google anything and find it. Right. Yeah. But then, like, week 1, you're already behind, and then week 2 is worse. And then by week 3, you've forgotten everything you learned and you're done. Right. So 3 months later, I went again and signed up for coaching. And from there on, it was my first, this is 2019, my first full year in multifamily. We closed on almost 600 doors.
Nice.
So, but I'm also a passive investor. I've invested in 575 doors now as an LP.
That's great.
And ultimately that's the dream. That's to me, my personal goal, because I want to give big and I want to do my own thing in life and not be, kind of strapped down to a job and all these other things. I want to invest passively. Yeah. That's it, and go sit on a beach and collect checks and, look at my email.
Yeah. And I think that's so important for people to have goals like that too, because, money, when you have money, you feel like not a lot changes. Now, I've never had millions and millions of dollars in the bank. Someday it will be, and maybe my attitude towards money will change at that point. But in my mind, it's the experiences and the things, the ways you give back that's really the most fulfilling. And
Yeah.
so, you can hustle and grind and try and get to that point where you're earning a ton of money. And that's a good thing in my mind. I truly believe that that's a great thing, but having goals behind it is also good too. And if your goal is to sit on a beach, that's awesome. How can you achieve that? If your goal is to give every dime you've ever made away, awesome. How are you going to earn more money,
Yep.
And so I think that's also a point we don't talk about on the podcast enough is what are the goals behind that stuff?
Yep. And I can talk about my driving force, and actually I'll pull this up. This is something my kids got. My kids know me well enough to know what my goals are. It's $1 million fake bill, obviously, but I look at it all day long because my goal is to give away $1 million. One of my goals is to give away $1 million annually to charities and people and just whatever I feel like giving away. Another goal that I will hit is with the Veterans Community Project that we've teamed up with, just in financial support of, and we're going to help them physically build too. But they build tiny homes for homeless veterans, and we're going to end the veteran homelessness problem in the U.S. this decade. So it's 38,000 homeless veterans out there, which is a big number, but it's not that big of a number. It's achievable, and we're going to do it this decade, which is amazing. So
that is great.
Excited about that.
Yeah, and that definitely takes money. So you got to earn it, and then you got to figure out ways to do that. So that's awesome. But let's get a little more concrete now and talk about what you're doing now as far as how you've changed things with COVID and what you're sort of looking at now with your acquisitions and what passive investors should be looking out for as well.
Yeah, slow and steady. So this is something that I am learning and reminding. I literally this morning, I was like, I need to write up on a Post-it note. I'm a big Post-it note fan. I was going to write on my light here a note that just says, be patient, because last year it was full steam ahead. We did 4 deals, 571 doors. And this year we're like, oh, momentum. And all of a sudden March comes, everything stopped.
Yeah.
Like what now? And when we're underwriting, typically as deal sponsors, as operators, it's you're looking at the trailing 12 financials, and you get all the rent rolls and the stuff that you need to underwrite the deal. But now the only thing that matters is F12, future 12 financials, and you don't have those. So if you don't have F12, then how are you supposed to underwrite the deal? And the way that we do it is you just have to get even more conservative than we were, which means you're not going to get the deals, because guess what? As of the time of recording this right now, the sellers out there still have a 2019 mindset. Mm-hmm. The thing hasn't broken yet. So until it does, deals are still going to be just as hard as they were in 2019 to find, but there's going to be an added layer of complexity because the buyer, me, wants to get a deal on it because you can see kind of what's, coming. And the sellers still think, well, it's a hot market, so I'm not lowering my price. So we're not willing to bend on that because our investors deserve it. We deserve it. And so we're just waiting. So patience is my biggest learning lesson right now, and I have mentors telling me all the time, just Eric, chill, just wait. You don't have to buy 800. Like my goal this year was 1,600 doors. You don't have to do that this year. 0 is okay this year because of what's going on, because in 2021, you've got the team, you've got the resources, the net worth, the liquidity, the experience. You're ready to rock for 2021. And there's going to be more deals that are better deals, and everyone's going to make a boatload of money. And we're also improving communities and providing amazing affordable housing. So,
yeah, that's a good point. Especially because one bad deal can really derail that entire scenario that you talked about. So patience is really critical right now. But let's talk for just a couple minutes. Where do you see the market going right now? We're in July, mid-July 2020. Where do you see things going in the next 6 months?
I mean, all I do, honestly, is just what you said. I ask other people, I'm like, what do you see? Like, there's so many smart people out there that in my network, I'll ask I'm in a boardroom mastermind, Rod Cleef's boardroom mastermind. And that's like, those guys are been doing this for a decade or more, all of them. So I'm the dumbest guy in the room there. So I'm asking those questions. Like, what do you guys see? I was in the Army in 2008. Nothing happened to me. What did you guys see? Like, Rod Cleef lost $50 million and he's back and then some now. So I'm looking to guys like that to tell me what I should expect. And what I hear people saying is that this is 2007, the equivalent of 2007. So get ready for 2021 through 23, where we're going to have and see more opportunities. And, it's going to look different because it wasn't a pandemic in 2008, but the things are still going to be there. My goal is just be patient, listen to my mentor, surround myself by the right people as much as I possibly can, and be ready. And that's exactly what I'm doing.
That's a good answer to that question. Just a caveat off of that, surrounding yourself with the right people. How can a passive investor make sure that they are surrounding themselves with really good quality, ethical people, especially in a time right now where really good deals could be hard to come by?
Yeah, so it's a kind of a two-way street, right? Active investors, GPs are trying to find LPs all the time. So that's always something they're looking for. So if you're a limited partner, I'm a limited partner also, and I always want to keep my money moving as well. So I will invest. My mother's investing in other people's deals, like whoever I can help invest in someone else's deal. I'm like, I don't have a deal right now, so you should invest with this guy or this gal. So anyway, to me, it's telling, if you're a limited partner, if you're a doctor or a lawyer or an NBA player, or you're just an active, I don't care if you are whatever your profession is, military, tradesman, whatever it is. If you're active and you've got cash sitting around and you don't know what to do with it, start talking to people that are actively buying, general partners, sponsors of deals. Get on their email list and see who you like best. See who is responsive to your emails. See who is providing valuable education. See who's willing to take your phone call. And when you find somebody you have good energy with, then that's who you should obviously vet them to, a certain standard. You're going to make sure that they haven't had any bad deals, and, look at their track record, get referrals and all that, kind of whatever. But to me, the relationship part of it is very important for people to understand that, they're going to look at you and go, is this the type of investor we want? And you're going to look at them and go, is this the type of sponsor I want? Are these people credible, and are they going to give me my returns? So
that's a good answer.
Just reaching out. If you go into any Facebook group that's a multifamily group and you just post with like a blue background or a red background, I'm a limited partner investor or something like that, I'm a passive investor, you're gonna get all kinds of people to say, don't do that. My list. If you're an LP, go for it. If that's your goal,
you could
to get on other people's email lists, then it's up to you.
That's like throwing yourselves into some shark water. I like that. But that's great advice. Frankly, I think I wouldn't add anything to that, just because I think the relationship between passive and active, and especially that's a two-way street, like you were saying, that's so critical, because it's almost like I'm interviewing you as we're on an investor call too, to see, is this person someone I can see myself working with for the next 5 years?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people say that too. It's for general partners, if you're buying these deals and managing them, part of that is managing the investors also, and the investors' expectations, and the investors' emails and phone calls. And why aren't they putting their information in our portal so we can pay them? They're not clicking the button in the email, so it is really like managing the next 5 years. If you have 35 investors, then none of them read their emails from you. It's going to be pulling teeth throughout the entire process. So it does go both ways. Absolutely. Yeah. And it is a partnership. That's why you're called a limited partner. You're a partner in the deal.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your group, your podcast, and everything before we start wrapping up.
Oh, yeah, sure. So Active Duty Passive Income is our company. We have a Facebook group of, at the time of this recording, about 12,000 members with a 93% engagement rate, growing at about 10% a month.
Wow.
And we have a #1 best-selling book that's free on our website. The book's called Military House Hacking. Our podcast is amazing. We've had Grant Cardone, Jocko Willink, Robert Kiyosaki, all the Rich Dad advisors, and everyone from an E2 private up to an 06 colonel in the military.
Nice.
So, and then because we created a community, and I'll recommend this to people out there who are getting started and want to grow something, because we started with a community and added value to that community, we now have had people reach out to us. We've started a full financial services division. We have the first ever employee-owned stock option mortgage branch. We have an insurance company for whole life. We have a nationwide agent referral network, and just goes on and on and on. It's amazing. We're just creating and providing the things that we wish we had. So we seek them out, vet them over a 3 to 6 month period, build out the company around it, and provide it to our community. So pretty amazing.
That's awesome. That's cool. And of course, I assume it's like activedutypassiveincome.com or where
Yep.
can...
ActiveDutyPassiveIncome.com. Funny story, ADPI.com is not available, so you're going to have to spell out the whole thing, folks. ADPI.com is American Dairy Producers Institute, which is kind of...
you can't buy that. You can't buy that URL.
That one's been taken since the internet existed.
That's funny. Yeah, well, we'll have links to it in the show notes or maybe down in the description if you're watching on YouTube, so you don't have to spell it all out. You can just click it. So just go to the below description. So Eric, I appreciate it so much.
Absolutely.
Just to wrap up, last question. If you were to talk to someone who's maybe on the fence about passive investing and they're fearful to take that first step, what advice would you give them?
I would say figure out somebody that, #1, that you jive really well with, that you can have a phone call with, and the energy, the flow of the conversation is good. If it's kind of like, if it just feels weird, and I'm a big guy that like believes in the way things flow and the feel of the conversation and the feel of people and stuff. As I said earlier, you're going to vet them other ways, but see if your relationship works. If you're not stumbling across over yourselves in conversation and all that stuff, do they seem nervous, and just comfortable with what they're doing? Can they answer all your questions? And then honestly, try to get into a deal. I mean, I know people that will allow you to invest as little as $25,000. Yeah. Typical standard is maybe 50,000 as the lowest, unless you're doing like a crowdfunding thing, but find somebody who's willing to do it at a lesser amount, if that's what you're comfortable with. And then, couple that with that relationship piece, and I think you'll be satisfied with the result.
Good question, or good answer. I love it. So thanks so much, Eric. I appreciate your time coming on and sharing your experiences. Has been great. Anywhere you want to direct people to other than activedutypassiveincome.com?
Nope, that's it. Just go to activedutypassiveincome.com and get our free book.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks.